Salim Maman said this. His statement
He
comes.
said this
He said
yesterday?
this, yes. His statement comes after power distribution companies said that 2 months free electricity will be given to Nigerians and paid for by the National Assembly and the federal government. Now, Maman in a tweet on Friday, said, and I quote, "No decision has been taken by the federal government to provide Nigerians with free electricity for 2 months. If and when that becomes a reality, it will be announced officially. Be rest assured that the federal government is exploring ways to ameliorate any hardship on Nigerians."
Should I say I rejoiced too early?
No, wait.
No, because really, when the power distribution company had said that they would be giving Nigerians 2 months of free electricity.
It was the discourse, and probably this was just their plan. They hadn't really met with the federal government. Mind you, they said it will be paid for by the National Assembly and the federal government. So probably we don't have the money.
But this would be what part of the palliatives for everyone. This one, everybody, at least 80% of the population or citizenry would have to enjoy from this. I mean, a lot of people in the country make do with electricity and all of that. So if the federal government is, I don't know. I just really hope that they consider this a good idea.
Exactly. I was going to say maybe the federal government doesn't consider this a palliative.
Why?
Well, because it's power. You when you want to give palliatives out, you give really relevant stuff.
This is relevant. I'll tell you how.
It is relevant.
A lot of workers who are now left to work at home, we need power. Now, a lot of people who would be at home trying to conserve their food stuff to make sure that they don't run out of those, knowing how, scarce it will be and very price high, right? Yeah. So they would need electricity. Everybody would need electricity.
I really do feel like, honestly, the government would want to prioritize feeding, housing for people who don't have housing, and healthcare itself over power. And not to say that the government hasn't or isn't thinking about this yet. The government is just saying, look, we haven't made the decision yet. It was the discourse. It was the discourse, mind you, who came out on Wednesday to announce that there was a proposal with the National Assembly and the federal executive arm of the government that Nigerians should get 2 months free electricity. Well, the discourse, however, on Thursday...
It's just 2 months. Remember that
it's just 2
power
months.
is not even constant in the country.
It's a lot of money, though. It's just 2 months, but it's a lot of money.
For the whole population, okay?
And mind you, the discourse on Thursday clarified that electricity would be paid for by the federal government in partnership with the National Assembly. So people who were, going about really loud in the discourse, it's not the discourse who really want to propose to give Nigerians free electricity. It's still the federal government and the National Assembly. So, and they've come out to say, look, we haven't had an agreement yet. It doesn't mean there won't be such agreement, but they don't just have that agreement at the moment.
All right. Another thing making the rounds right now on social media, Twitter specifically, would be the evacuation of Nigeria. The federal government have come out to, say a prayer or two for persons who had died in the United States or something like that. Yes, Nigerians
and the UK. Yes.
Yeah, who died out of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, people are saying that instead of coming out to give prayers and, minutes of silence and all of that, why don't you quickly, speedily bring these other Nigerians who are begging and clamoring to come back to the country and have them isolated and quarantined here in the country, so that the way we have been able to contain it, we can also help them to recoup from this particular virus. What do you think?
All right, it's a wonderful idea because they're all citizens of Nigeria. Everybody, both people abroad, people here in the country, we're all citizens of Nigeria and we have rights. And the government really should look into, the lives and the health and the safety of people, even in other countries. But, the government really has to be careful when dealing in these times. Really, really has to be careful because there's the evacuation process. You have to make sure that most people coming into the country are, test negative to the virus. When they come into the country, you have to make sure you quarantine them properly. It's going to be a lot of money because you're going to feed them for the duration of the 14 days they would spend in probably a facility that you also have to set up, mind you, which is also another, round of...
But the thing is, we have certain isolation centers already and we're still, trying to make some, right? Isn't it? Which means that somehow we may have enough to contain. How many would they even be? The people who are planning to evacuate.
We have lots of people. We have people in China. We have people in the US who want to come back to the country. We have people in the UK who want to come back into the country.
Yeah, okay, even if we can evenly distribute them to various isolation centers, make sure that they are tested and make sure that any of them who perhaps has the virus will be taken care of. Honestly, because I feel like if we've been able to help some persons recoup from the virus, we've helped a lot of persons, boost their immune system. A lot of persons who are tested positive, right, much later tested negative, which means that we have that capacity. And plus the help, the extra hands we're getting from the Chinese doctors, which means we may be able to contain this if they come back. So I don't see why we keep them there any longer.
Honestly, I'm not saying the government should keep citizens of Nigeria there. What I'm saying is if the government wants to evacuate Nigerians back home, the government needs to be careful and carefully, do this. The government has to be organized. We cannot afford to have a pandemic. We already have a pandemic on our hands. We cannot afford to, make it increase in a matter of days because we want to evacuate Nigerians. I mean, I saw the video of Nigerians on social media, Nigerians in China on social media, and how they were treated in that particular country. And I was yearning for them to be evacuated back into the country. But for us to do that, we need adequate planning. We need to be more organized, and we need to make sure that people coming into the country are taken care of adequately. I mean, their health and even their welfare.
Okay. All right. Quickly, let's come back to Rivers State before we open the phone lines. To start off, we would be telling you that the Rivers State government have started the palliative distribution of foodstuff. All right. The COVID-19 Palliative Distribution Committee in Rivers State has commenced the distribution of foodstuff in Obiakpo local government area. Chairman of the committee, Desmond Akuo, said the distribution of food items to all the 23 local government areas of the state was aimed at cushioning the effect of the stay-at-home order and closure of markets. Presenting the food items like spaghetti, noodles on Thursday to representatives of the various wards in the local government area, Akuwa noted that the gesture was in accordance with the covenant the state governor Nyesom Wike had with the Rivers people. Now, does this clear your doubt on the committee that he set? I mean, they've already, started working. Before now, we're talking about the committee.
Kalada was saying about 2 days ago that there was something political about it, and I was saying, look, calm down. Let's give these people time. I'm majorly concerned by delivery. If you deliver, I have no problem with whatsoever political party it is you support or whoever was in the governor's committee for the palliative measures. I really don't have a problem with that. Would these people deliver, and would they deliver fairly and squarely to everybody equally, regardless of your political party and everything?
Let's see how even this would be, right? For the 23 local government areas, let's be sure that everybody should be able to attest one way or the other that their ward, their local government, benefited from the palliative.
Exactly the point. People have to testify. Local government chairmen to have some work to do.
So yesterday, after we finished, talking about how the government should drop its immunity for the financial records of Rivers State. Today we are saying, well done to the governor. At least let's see this continue, right? Let's be sure that the 23 local government areas in the state has a fair share of these distributions.
Amazing. And on Tuesday or Wednesday, there were videos on social media showing Nigerians in China stranded on the streets. They were sent out of their homes and out of their hotel rooms and sent out to the streets for no particular reason. No particular reason was given. People started to, shout out on social media.
There were talks that their visa had expired.
There were talks. There were some of those talks. But you have to understand that lots of people in lots of countries, certain measures have been taken. People don't pay rents. These are the times when
the people who don't pay rent, we have to verify, because the people who don't pay rents would either be the citizens of the country and not, foreigners.
I really don't think, the federal government, regardless of whatever reasons China has for their actions, the federal government has summoned the Chinese ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Zhou Pingyang.
About time.
Over reports of maltreatment of Nigerians in China. In the last 2 days, Nigerians in China have been posting videos on social media alleging maltreatment in the Gazalco area of China, Chinese. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, on Thursday met with Mr. Pingyang over the issue. In a tweet, Mr. Onyema said he had urged the ambassador to speak with the Chinese authorities to intervene on the matter. He said, and I quote, "I invited the Chinese ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Zhu, to communicate at Nigerians' government extreme concerns at the allegations of the maltreatment of Nigerians in China, and called for the immediate Chinese government intervention." So it's really great to see our Minister of Foreign Affairs really try to intervene and talk to the ambassador.
This is not even going too well with Nigerians, because a lot of Nigerians have taken to the social media pages and asking the federal government to deport Chinese people in the country. Seeing how they're treating Nigerians over there.
I was saying, look, we have Chinese nationals here in the country, and we treat them with respect, at least to an extent. We treat them with respect. Most of them, even get more respect than Nigerians in the country, than citizens of this country. Because you see an average Chinese man with police escort or something, so it's something we should really think of. And mind you, this is the same China who is really coming out and saying, look, we want to help all the countries of the world. They have donated some kits to the country. They have sent out some of their doctors. And in their own country, they don't really treat our citizens with respect and with some sort of dignity. Even if they have their visas expired and certain things. There are things you do. You deport people. You send them back to their, to their countries in planes. And you don't just send them out to the streets, send them out of their homes, out of their hotel rooms.
And just leave them high and dry.
On the street. That's sad. It paints a different story. Do you understand? On one side, you're painting the story of help. You want to help the people. You want to help every country of the world. You're donating masks. You're donating PPEs. You're donating everything. On the other hand, you're maltreating their citizens in your country. So which exactly do we believe as Nigerians?
Okay, 34 minutes past 1 o'clock, and we have been talking. I noticed that a lot of persons want to actually get into the conversation as well. So we'll be opening the phone lines immediately, 0817 000 951 or 0810 9510 951. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about the deportation of Nigerians in China and asking the federal government to evacuate them immediately. What's your take? Do you think that it is right that the federal government calls that they have to taste negative first before you think of evacuating them, or they should bring them back home and be sure that the citizens are well taken care of?
Right.
And then what's your take on the partnership with the federal government and manufacturing companies here in Nigeria, especially Innocent Motors? I mean, that clears the doubt of the federal government neglecting Innocent Motors because they are from a particular region. I had to put that in because a lot of people who call in to talk about Innocent Motors
always argue that the government doesn't want to support
every single
because
time
they're from a region. So basically now the government is doing that same thing. So what do people have to say? Mind you, you could also send a text message to the number, a text message or a WhatsApp message rather, to the number 0701 933 9962.
All right, 95.1 FM.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome, Bolu.
Good afternoon to you. What's your name and where are you calling from? Obina. Go ahead, Obina. You're welcome.
Yes, on the Nigerians that are stranded in China, I don't think that Nigerians are not treated fairly.
Okay.
In the country of the world. But I think that Nigerians don't behave well. I'm telling you.
No. When you say they don't behave well, right now the only options we have on the ground, suggestions as to why they were sent out to the street, is that their visa had expired and all of that. Not because of crime.
If your visa has expired, the right thing is not for you to go and renew it.
But who do you blame? Who do you blame when there is a lockdown?
Exactly. And do you send them out on the streets? Is that the proper thing to do?
Well, what I want to do is that government should investigate properly. Not just depending on that Nigerians say that they have been protesting over there. Let the government investigate properly and find out the remote reason why they have been ejected out of the...
I'm guessing that's why they're in talks with the ambassador. But thank you very much, Obina. Very nice contribution. And let's not also forget that we talked about the distribution company, power distribution company, who said that they're waiting on the federal government to approve their proposal for 2 months free electricity.
And now the federal government has come out to say, look, we haven't made such an agreement yet. And if at all it will be made, we'll make it official.
95.1 FM, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
West and my brother. My name is Obina. I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
All right, go on, Obina.
Let me remind you something. Remember that time they have a xenophobia issue in South Africa?
Okay.
Even when we are here saying that people are stranded, a Minister of Information was telling the whole world that everything is okay. See, let's not run away from the truth. These Chinese that is maltreating these people, they threw them out. There was a video in evidence and fact. We don't need any social to prove this thing. The federal government of Nigeria has...
But in defense of the federal government, they are in talks with the ambassador, right?
Brother, I use issue of South Africa to compare this one.
Okay.
People suffer in South Africa. I have my own evidence.
But the government evacuated them at some point in conjunction with Air Peace, if you remember.
I don't like all these things they will come and say in the pages of newspaper. We'll do this. We'll give life. We'll do this. They will not do anything.
But are you disagreeing that Air Peace, together with the federal government, have evacuated willing Nigerians who wanted to come back to the country?
They want to work with the fellow politicians
No.
All right, thank you very much, Obina. All right. Okay, we'll take another person's call now. 95.1 FM. Okay, lost that one. Do well to keep the calls coming in. 0817 0000951 or 0810 9510 951. Sending your text messages or WhatsApp messages to the number 0701 9339 962. 95.1 FM.
Hello, good afternoon. Anybody home?
Hello?
Yes.
Good afternoon.
What's your name and
FM.
where you're calling from?
Good afternoon, Well.
Good afternoon. Chima.
Yes, my name
Good
is
afternoon.
Chima.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Chima, go on.
Yes, I think it's unfortunate what the Chinese government, what the Chinese are doing to Nigerians. I watched that video. You understand? I think our government, they have to take action immediately. This matter should not be handled like South Africa, where Cyril Ramaphosa did not show any record. But at the end, the president invited him. The president had to even travel to South Africa.
Okay. You know what we're focusing on? Chima, you know what we're focusing on right now? Do you think it is right that the federal government is saying that we have to make sure that these people are testing negative first before we bring them into the country? Or the government should bring them first off and then take care of them?
No. I think they should be. They should first of all satisfy their health status.
Okay.
That's okay.
All right.
That's okay. You understand?
All right.
Yes. Please let us stop this. Let us know what they are doing.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And they try to maltreat them. It is wrong.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you too. 95.1 FM.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Good afternoon to you.
Mr. Bright from Remember.
Okay, Mr. Bright, you're welcome.
Thank you. The Nigerians and China, the federal government wants their health status to be certified before bringing them home. It sounds reasonable. And another thing is also to look at the condition there. Are they in a good condition while this certification is done? They're not in good condition since they have been contacting the Nigeria Diaspora Commission. They should also have to agree with government if on their arrival they will behave for them to be on compulsory isolation.
Oh, of course.
Will have to. The government will have to isolate them if they are not in good condition over there. Just bringing them down before they run into more troubles. Then they should agree that while they are being brought back, they will succumb to government's directive and government will have to isolate them in a government-acquired area.
All right.
That as it may. But then let us also cast our mind back. Why is Nigerians, the last time Nigeria, South Africa, Nigeria, Indonesia, Nigeria, China, please, are we asking ourselves question? Are there things we do abroad that run us into problem with host countries? You know, usually when it happens, we'll always run to sympathy. Oh, South Africa, we deal with them. Oh, Indonesia, we deal with them. What is happening? Are there other nationals that are being pushed out together with Nigerians or just Nigerians? We should start talking about what we do outside. Not every time it happens, we call government. It's just like a child who behaves wrong. Anytime he does something wrong and the parents will stand out for him, that child will never learn to correct his errors. Nigerians portray bad attitude abroad.
And not all, okay? Not all. Let's not speak in absolute terms.
Most Nigerians, most people have 100 outside. 80 are doing something wrong. We have to get it.
All right. Thank you very much.
It's high time we just caution ourselves. If not, we'll keep running into such problems.
All right. Thank you very much. I see we've been having a lot of text messages. We might take a few before we go back to the phone line.
Okay. This one says, federal government do not receive any vaccine for COVID-19 from China or anybody. Okay. This one says, for me, Governor Wike's speech is unguided and misleading because he has violated social distancing rules and regulation.
I don't think that's for us anyway.
Okay, this one says, UC Royal, have you seen the bonding of working together? That's what we're missing in this time of lockdown period. This one says, good day, guys in the studio. Someone called that she got a few cups of rice, one big Indomie pack. Is that the food River State government is sharing?
At least they're giving something.
I really weep for my nation. Election time will soon come and people will stupidly sell their rights to these politicians that don't have anything to offer. I pity my people. That message was from Frank. This one says, let the government bring back the Nigerian citizens either negative or positive to the virus. Thanks. Gray from Port Harcourt. This one says, "Good day, Bolu and Wealth. Please, I want to know if this sharing of food and other things by the River State government is it for both non-River people or for the people of River State alone?" Majesty from Port Harcourt. We'll go back
I think it will be for Rivers people. I am not sure this would extend to non-indigens, but let's see how it pans out. And for the person who had sent the text message, right? It gave me the thinking, if the federal government finds out that these people are positive, what's going to happen to them?
We'll probably have to treat them. They're citizens of Nigeria as well.
I mean, if we're going to treat them, that means they would have to still come back,
That means they would have to come to the isolation centers and they will be well taken care of.
No, whether or not they taste negative, when they come back, they will be it's isolated.
Exactly. It's risky on its own to bring a couple of positive people and another couple of negative people on the same plane back to Nigeria. That they could the virus could spread in that way alone. Right. So it's quite tricky for the government to bring back positive people into the country.
Okay, 95.1 FM, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, please turn down the volume of your radio. We're getting hold back.
I've turned it off already.
All right, thank you very much. What's your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Mr. Kuda. I'm calling from Moji.
All right, go on.
Yes, my own interest is about the federal government paying for NEPA bill for 2 months.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know, but this will not get approval because it's not a physical cash. Because this one is what they will do, and they will, at least it will get to 70% of Nigerians. But let me tell you, they will not do it. You know why they will not do it? It's not a physical cash that will go into hands that when they distribute it to a few people, they bag the rest. And because this thing will not fly. But now for the Nigerians in China, I believe that they are Nigerians.
Okay.
If this country was good, if it's a very good place for them to be, they won't travel out of this country. All these places that we go, they molest Nigerians. It's not because our country is poor. It's because the politicians in this Nigeria, they have a poor-mind mentality. So when they get to that place, it just needs them to steal. That is why they are there. That's how people are suffering over there. If not, they won't be suffering like that and be going to someone. South Africa and China and all the rest, they will not be going there. There's hardly any part of the world that you go, you will not say Nigerian there.
But that doesn't mean that they're there because of suffering. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, one second.
Right.
Let me tell you one thing.
Quickly.
They are positive or negative. You should bring them down here and give them treatment.
All right, thank you very much. We got your point there. 95.1 FM, good afternoon.
Hello?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Winston and Co.
What's your name and where you're calling from?
My name is George. Calling from Romeo, Odego.
All right, welcome, George. Go on.
I want to talk about the sharing of palliatives by River State government. I think, as I'm one of the advocates of the black community, I think those things should be extended to the world. They should also extend to the unit. And Obiakpon have taken a lead on it. They should not be politicizing it because everybody is a citizen of River State. And we know because of this coronavirus pandemic that's now present to us, a lot of rural communities, a lot of rural communities. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, please speak up loudly.
Yes, I say a lot of these rural communities need this palliative more because these things we are talking about this coronavirus, you understand me? They are farm products, they don't go to anywhere to go to their farms and also sell their agricultural products within the market because they are the food market of River State today. Whatever product they are getting there, whatever growth they are getting from there, they are getting it from rural community because that is what they produce. And they did not go to their farm, they did not also go to the market. So it's very good for them to extend this, especially to those rural community people. And the sharing formula, I heard Desmond Akawo, the leader of this intervention stuff. I think he have said it all that he's bringing that the people that is going to take the world by own and community, that the Royal Highness must be there, that the CDC chairman must be there, irrespective of party you are into. The youth leader must be there. I think it's a good guideline on it.
All right.
Because I was looking at it, something that they would really want to bias. Then when he made that pronunciation, I was really happy with such move. My own is that let it go to rural community. Rural community, if this thing get to community spread, my brother, they will be the ones to suffer. So because those basic amenities that government do, wash in a running water, and there must be running water. In communities like that, they don't have it. What they have is streams. So as they go to tackle this coronavirus, I think they should extend it to rural communities.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Judge.
All right. Thank you very much, Judge. Beautiful contributions. We have been getting a lot of text messages. We have to do justice to those.
Okay, all right. This one says, my name is Efe, texting from Alakaya. I don't blame the Chinese government. If your paper is expired, you ought to have renewed before time. They are there with their Nigerian mentality. Well, the thing is this: even if that was the case, even if they have papers done, there are certain things that the government of China could do rather than just send them out on the streets. Okay, this one says, good day all. I am Gift Anyanwu from HA Federal Government. Okay, from HA. Federal government partnering with Innocent Motors to produce ventilators is a good move in the right direction. Well done, federal government. Gift Anyanwu from HA. This one says, good day everybody in the studio. Syncto from Port Harcourt. It is good news that the federal government has partnership with a Nigerian company product to produce a ventilator. River states with farmers and fishermen also to revive them. Kudos to the government. This one says, good afternoon, dear presenter. China is maltreating Nigerians in their country, and the same China is out here with their COVID-19 mask. We should watch out. That message was from Mrs. Agombi. This one says, good afternoon, guys. The federal government has been making so much noise about diversification and prioritizing made in Nigerian products. The reality on ground, however, is that there is absolutely nothing to encourage local manufacturers. No steady power supply, multiple taxation, insecurity, and lack of grant for startup firms. Innocent Motors was here when the phony legislators chose to order brand new 2020 Toyota Camrys from
Japan.
But
at least now they're thinking of partnership for ventilators.
I know, right? It goes ahead to say the president is always the first person to seek for medical treatment in foreign countries. As the commander-in-chief, he should lead by example. Well, that message was from Umes Thomas in Port Harcourt.
All right, 95.1 FM.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's the name and where you're calling from?
You're calling from Port Harcourt.
All right, go on, Moses.
Well, Chinese attitude towards Nigerians and the federal government attitude towards bringing doctors from China. Chinese refuse to treat Nigerians in their own country, telling us that visa, no visa, knowing you lock down the whole facility.
Mm-hmm.
So whose fault? Are they not ready to renew their visa if the visa is expired? But as a result of the lockdown.
But should they be treated? Should they be treated in that manner? Do you feel they should? By the Chinese government?
It's uncalled for.
Okay.
It's uncalled for. The attitude is very, very wrong at this point in time that everywhere is locked down.
Mm-hmm.
And our federal government is also like looking at, okay, we have partnered with China for a while. The railway, they are there, the other projects are here and there. As okay, let's get these doctors to come and assist us here. So this relationship between us and China, I think it should be looked at. There are things that, for me, Chinese authority is doing that is very wrong.
Okay.
To Nigerians indigenous in their country.
Of course, it will be looked at.
And mind you, the federal, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, by the way, has called the ambassador of China here in Nigeria and told him for his government to intervene in the matter.
But for me, our leaders, to me, the attitude somehow also should be blamed, because these people, the way they treat us, we the Africans, in the eyes of the Europeans, is another thing. Because when you go begging, they'll see you as I don't know how to put it.
All right.
When we go begging them, so they can trample on us as the way they want.
When you say begging, I have to intervene there. Like, the federal government doesn't go begging. The federal government goes to get partnership and investorship from China, saying that we are not a very dependent economy.
For example, for example, I have a friend and I need a help. I'll say, guy, please borrow me. What does it mean? It's not begging.
When you don't have, I meet a country that have.
But there's pretty much no country in the world that has single-handedly handled everything on their own.
Nigerian own is something else. Our leaders they are marketed us wrongly.
Okay, thank you very much.
The president are still doing it.
Thank you very much.
They should look inwards, please.
They will look inwards. Thank you very much. The phone lines are still very much open. 0817 0000951 or 0810 9510951. 95.1 FM. Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, brother.
Yeah,
my name is Wilson.
All right, go on, Wilson.
Go on.
Okay, I have just two of three contributions to make.
All right, quickly.
As regards the maltreatment of Nigerians in China, one, condemnable. It is wrong. But I think the genesis of the whole thing is that the government, our federal government, did not value the life of Nigerians outside, whether inside or outside, because you can see how we are killed locally and internationally, and nothing has come out of it. Up to now, we have not seen any renewable thing that Nigeria has done as regards the number of people that were killed in South Africa. Last week, we buried somebody that was killed in South Africa, in my own community. So up to now, that's killing Nigerians. And then China, we saw a lift. So the South Africa will happen. Instead of the president to come here begging, Nigerian president went to South Africa. So we don't have value for our people. Then we don't have value for the life of Nigerians.
Okay, good.
The government has no value. Point. That is my point in that aspect.
Okay.
Then the other one is about the Nigerians in China.
Okay.
I support the sayings that said, let them come back, negative or positive. Then, quarantined. Anyone that is infected should be treated. Anyone that is negative should be released. So we should value our life.
Thank you very much.
Right,
95.1 FM. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good
How are you
afternoon,
doing today now?
Very well.
Yeah, my name is Albert.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah, this issue, the maltreatment given to Nigerians in China, this thing didn't start today because of this COVID-19. It has been a long time ago, since 2008, 2009. Because I have so many friends who do with electronics in the city of Banjul there in China. These people have been gradually going to leave. So I've spoken with many of them. So since these people don't want you to stay, what are you supposed to do? Is it not for you to take a different endeavors to look some elsewhere that can accommodate the attitude? Because some of them are so stubborn. This will be driving you. Now you don't want to leave. Now look at the COVID-19 that is there in China. Now where do you think that they can go? Since they are asking you to leave the country, you don't want to leave. That be disturbing their since now. And then the security system is very bad. The way they maltreat Nigerians, they will not say anything about it. If you see now, you say Chinese man, you beat him up, that does what will happen to you. They will not talk. I follow these things on the CNN. The embarrassment is too much. You understand? So we need to stand up and condemn this attitude.
All right.
China is a very bad country. We don't like
No.
Don't deface
but thank you very much. I understand his grievances and all of that.
And there have been allegations as well. Honestly, to be quite truthful, there's been allegations that Nigerians in China have been maltreated over time, and it's not just now that we have the COVID-19.
I think it's just for the federal government to hasten up and make sure that the Nigerians who are stranded over there be brought back home.
A caller talked about the Nigerian government selling Nigeria in bad light, like making us look like we are lesser, or we're a lesser country, lesser people. I think we really need to look into that, how our country, our leaders represent us when they go to these countries for partnership and investorship as well.
Okay, 95.1 FM.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, please.
Yes, 95.1 FM.
I want to talk about
your name, and where you're calling from.
George.
Okay, George.
I want to say about the Chinese. Do you know that Chinese country, China and Nigeria have collabed?
Yeah, they have some partnership.
They have partnership. I call it collabon.
Okay.
Listen what China wants to do. Conspiracy theory. Listen what China wants.
Your conspiracy theory.
China.
Okay.
Yes, my. China wants to be the world power, and they go to the when the enemy and Nigeria say that Chinese doctors should not come. It's just like a threat to Nigeria that if they do not allow the Chinese doctors to come in, understand me, that there are citizens there. That's happening that night. They want to show it to the public. Because I read over it. They said in famous restaurants in China, I think you read about it, they will tell you, understand me, that that's the way they were infected on it, understand me. So it's just a conspiracy theory that China wants to use that tactics and tricks to come to Nigeria and capture Nigeria. That's just it.
All right. Thank you for sharing your conspiracy theory with us. I think we'll just take a few text messages and then we'll call it a wrap for the first half of today's hustle.
This one says, on the state palliative measures, I thank the state governor, Honorable Governor Wike, but we in Ikure local government will not get it because it will be shared amongst themselves. Watch out. This one from Chris O'Chris says, see, I take what Pastor Chris said concerning 5G network in Nigeria. Remember how much Nigerian government are owing China. Maybe the Chinese government wants to use their hand and collect the money from our accounts. Remember the microchips, okay? Conspiracy theories here and there. This one says the partnership is just media play. Innocent approached them first, but they ignored him only to come back after they embarrassed themselves with Elon Musk. This one. Okay, this one also says, good day. On China doctors, the debtor has no choice but to be dragged to his unwilling direction simply because of the debt owed.
No, that's wrong. We have to clear that impression. If there is an agreement on funds and finances, there are stipulated times for when you would service those debts, okay?
I think what you're trying to say is that the Nigerian government would always want to support China or always want to accept things from China. But then again, you don't necessarily have to use certain words. Well, we have lots of text messages, but we can't take them now.
Hopefully the second half, we will be looking at your text messages before we talk about what we have on the table. It is Wealth Wilson
and Boluwatife Ajayi.
The news update at 2 comes up next. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned to us.
Every day, every hour, when the big stories break, depend on our 24-hour news team to bring you the latest. Today, 95.1 FM.
Today, 95.1 FM. Port Harcourt. News update.
Good afternoon, and here is the news update at 2 on Today 95.1 FM. I am Wealth Wilson. The All Progressive Congress have advised Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike not to take action in the fight against COVID-19 that would have negative impact on residents of the state. The South-South Zonal Secretary of the All Progressive Congress, David Okungara, who made this reaction, said he was reacting to some of the latest developments in the state since the first case of the virus in the state, including the governor's allegation against federal government and the arrest and arraignment of 2 pilots by the state government. Okumba described the governor's demands and position on the 10 billion naira grant to Lagos State by the federal government as ridiculous. Okumba encourage Rivers people to support federal government in the fight against coronavirus through the guidelines by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control. Reacting to the closure of markets, appointment of a PDP chairman as the chairman of palliative committee, the APC zonal secretary asked that the government be transparent in distributing the palliatives. President Muhammadu Buhari says this is the period for Nigerians to remain faithful and hopeful in God. The president made the observation in his goodwill message to Christians in celebration of Easter. President Buhari said although this year's Easter comes amid the COVID-19 pandemic, it is an opportunity for all to be hopeful that intensified prayers backed by personal and collective responsibility, the nation will triumph. He also enjoined all Christians to rekindle their faith in Christ, who overcame persecutions and displayed endurance. President Buhari also commended and identified the encouraging containment and ameliorating strategies put in place by members of the Presidential Task Force to combat COVID-19. The president noted that the measures like restriction of movements and closure of business premises put in place by the federal government is a sacrifice in everybody's interest to save the nation from calamity. He added that the welfare of everyone is paramount and the federal government will continue to be topmost in plans and efforts to supply all with basic means of survival. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control has announced that the total number of confirmed Lassa fever cases has increased to 963 in 2020. The agency said 12 new cases were recorded between March 30 and April 5, 2020. The NCDC said this in its 2020 Week 14 report made available on its website. It also said 188 deaths have been recorded in the country this year. On the foreign scene, in the last 2 weeks, South Africa has been in a dramatic and unexpected slowdown in the daily rate of coronavirus infection. However, health experts are warning that it is far too early to see this as a significant development and worry that it could even trigger a dangerous sense of complacency. President Cyril Ramaphosa has now suggested that the 2 weeks of lockdown is responsible as he has extended the nationwide restrictions scheduled to end in 1 week's time to the end of the month. And that was the news update on Today 95.1 FM. Do not forget, take responsibility, wash your hands frequently with soap under running water, avoid touching your face and high contact surfaces to prevent coronavirus. Good afternoon, I am Wealth Wilson. Stay safe and tune to Today 95.1 FM as today's hustle continues with Bolu and Wealth Wilson.
Today's news, today's entertainment, today's sports, today's issues. Today on Today 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt.
I am a proud Nigerian. I have been placed here by God for a time such as this.
At my back, I ain't coming back.
The degradation, challenges, and problems faced by Nigeria are the perfect backdrop for me to develop and utilize my God-given potential.
I will not complain. I will not criticize. Rather, I will use my skills, gifts, relationships,
and experience to find long-lasting and revolutionary solutions to the many challenges confronting Nigeria.
Nigeria will rise again.
Because I am here, I will leave this nation
a better place than I met it. I will work to make Nigeria a praise on the earth.
I will work to make Nigeria a praise on the earth. So help me God.
Let me tell you how I got this far.
This message is brought to you by Today 95.1 FM, Voice of the People.
Belene enujana na muli uke mu shelu buko mu walo momom uke mi beke kura bubu coronavirus disease covid-19 uke ya tuyo togo ya don uke ya kanwe ogogo ma pori de pom uke ya tuyo no togo mbo omo to mo chele bo e paro ko na ye ka wa ko bojuna to bele bojuna agita mo bo wai e pato ha ka o ni kpuru ho lele e ba ho le ma gele ka e ba se ma oyoni ya bi don mi aka pom mom menu uke momom o dar pom ma yona ni oyoni e wote ya ko pekele ubu tare wole ilu seri huse elo tare hatingwe e hogole agbazo yele maji pombe abo yiru dabe yiru pomba ko egba bi nweso loto be yo ele bo ya ka jele pom meni po uji ya se go ya lo mom po to ya zele meni epe ya go no bo e ka asare fon le cha bebele ye ago ndu kuri bo o bateka akushire no kushi amutakire no muta ne ka zina di kogbo ma po ado no po ado ya bo de biom yo to ni uke ya o mu ne butume ma nke ne ko wula lobo komi po de ya me edu bo de ya ma ko meni amaju enuzu yo to ni awa mo ya bari uji ugbodo ni juko e mena ya je banu shibo mom tam bo mena wona ye Port Harcourt City the badune One Love for COVID-19 organization amaju enuzu.
Have you heard that
coronavirus has been confirmed in Nigeria.
My brother, don't panic. The Federal Ministry of Health and Nigeria Center for Disease Control have advised that everyone should do the following to stay safe.
Tell me.
Wash your hands regularly with soap under running water. Use hand sanitizer if there is no water. Cover mouth with bent elbow or tissue when you cough or sneeze. Dispose the used tissue and wash your hands immediately. Avoid touching eyes, nose, mouth with unwashed hands. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces such as door locks, tables, and chairs.
You don't mean it.
Avoid close contact with sick persons or anybody coughing or sneezing.
Please, Mary, what are the symptoms of coronavirus?
Any person infected with coronavirus can have fever, cough, difficulty in breathing, and shortness of breath.
Don't panic. Coronavirus is preventable. If you have traveled to any country with reported local or community transmission, stay indoors and away from people for 14 days. If you develop any of the symptoms mentioned above, call the Nigeria Center for Disease Control NCDC toll-free line 0800-97000010. Share information about coronavirus only from verified sources like the Federal Ministry of Health, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, and the World Health Organization WHO. This message is from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control NCDC, the Federal Ministry of Health, and partners.
Talk radio. I listen to a lot of talk radio.
95.1 FM.
This is today's hustle. One show that embodies objectivity. We raise the bar in examining the good, the bad, the sordid, everything that has to do with society.
In America, you buy a big house and you pay gradually for 30 years of your life. That is politics. In Nigeria, you carry out your salary and go and rent one room. Bad politics.
Everything that has to do with
you
society.
must negotiate. If we don't negotiate, when a man is pushed to the wall, he bounces back with double levels. We have been pushed to the wall.
The Hustle. Every weekday from
1 p.m. to 3 p.m.
on Today 95.1 FM.
With the dawn of the global pandemic, coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, we have been advised to self-isolate and observe social distancing rules. We at Today 95.1 FM want to tell you that while you self-isolate, it is important that you take this time out to get a skill, improve on your old and existing skills, read a book, listen to educational tapes, work out if you need to, bond with your family. Don't just spread fear and panic, self-isolate and grow. Make this time count for you. This message is brought to you by Today 95.1 FM, the voice of the people.
My brother, my sister, papa, mama, and pikin. Corona, no big pass us. We go fight time, we go win. As long as we remember to always do the right thing. Wash your hands, love each other, we go win. Oh. Corona, na the virus, we dey worry human being. E no get Lego, but e dey waka from person to person. But we fit beat time, we fit stop time if we maintain good hygiene and practice social distancing. We go win. Oh. No shaking hands with your neighbor. Blow them a kiss from afar. Use soap and water to wage war. Let's show this thing who we are. We are special, we're courageous, we are awesome human beings. We dey super, we get power, we can conquer anything. If we hear word and obey laws and exercise discipline. Wash your hands, love each other, we go we know. If it be like say you know well, like it's something they do you, and you feel say, you believe say, you get a seed it do you, and your body no researchy, like it's something they do you. No let panic finish you, you go we know. Self-isolate for the sake of all the people that you love. religious, you're a caged human being. You too much, oh, you get power, you can conquer anything. Only if you hear word and obey laws and exercise discipline. Wash your hands, love one another, we know. My brother, my sister, papa, mama, and pikin. COVID-19, no big pass, we go fight and we go win. Just as long as we remember to always do the right thing. Wash your hands, love each other, we know.
This is today's hustle. One show that embodies objectivity. We raise the bar in examining the good, the bad, the sordid, everything that has to do with society.
In America, you buy a big house and you pay gradually for 30 years of your life. That is politics. In Nigeria, you carry all your salary and go and rent one room. Bad politics.
Everything that has to do with
You
society.
must negotiate. If we don't negotiate, when a man is pushed to the wall, he bounces back with double levels. We have been pushed to the wall.
The Hustle. Every weekday from
1 p.m. to 3 p.m.
on Today 95.1 FM.
Okay, thank you for staying tuned. You are still on to your premium talk radio station Today 95.1 FM, and it is still Wealth Wilson and
Ajayi Buluwatafe
driving you through today's hustle. Well, as we said, it is the last edition of the hustle for the week until Monday, and first half was really interesting. A lot of persons decided to, pick interest with the Chinese government and how they have left Nigerians stranded. And we still have a lot of text messages.
All right, yes, and I'm going to be reading some of them. This one says, the Nigerian government doesn't negotiate with China on equal basis. China is in control, and we are owing them, and they have lots of investments here in Africa, neo-colonialism. Well, I don't exactly agree with that. Okay, this one says, my name is Mr. Okujiri from Wuji. What is the Nigerian ambassador to China doing or saying concerning maltreatment of our people there? Such a shame. This one says, good afternoon, guys. Please, I want to comment on the food distribution by River State government and its sharing formula. I think it should include the non-indigens as well, because the locked effect affected everybody, including indigens and non-indigens. It would be very, very unfair if the government should declare the food distribution for just the state. This one says palliative. The food should be shared house by house. Where is the food? Do we farm government? Should the government go to the villages to encourage farming? Government should consult people like me, like you, for rural development. Mr. Olulu in Hauda West area of River State. Okay, those were the messages we had for the first half of the show. Right about now, we'll be delving into a topic for the second half of the show. What, Wilson?
No, that felt like you caught me off guard.
Yes, I did. I caught you off guard because, she was just texting on her phone and trying to get facts for the second half of the show. It's really excited to see you do that every time. It's really, really exciting.
All right. So on the second half of the show, we'll be talking about a lot, the one thing that concerns all of us here in River State and in Nigeria.
Honestly, not just River State, all over Nigeria.
Now, it is no news that this is Good Friday, right?
Yes.
And then the government all over the states in Nigeria have been relaxing restrictions for the Easter period, which would be
and not
on
just
Sunday.
the Easter period, because certain people have been allowed to go to their mosques as well in certain states.
Yeah,
if
you're going to let Christians go,
prayer,
as well. So they've been like a relaxation on the restrictions on religious gathering, basically, for both Muslims and Christians. And this has been quite mind-boggling for a lot of persons, right? So I felt like today would be a perfect day for us to banter. Do you think that this relaxed restrictions by state governments for the Easter, should it be worrisome, or is it something to be thankful for?
Okay, you see, first of all, if we're being real, this is Nigeria, and Nigeria is a very extremely, I cannot even overemphasize this, it's a religious country with people who are really religious and people who take their religion seriously. Point noted, we are religious people. And so when certain things happen or when certain processes have to take place, people don't really want to find joy with that, with the process, because of our religion, because of certain things that we believe in that we should do. Now, this has sort of like affected us and the way our government and the way we do certain things, not just as a government, as a people. So now I've put down my point. The first thing to note is that we are very religious people. Now, second point, we're in the midst of a pandemic. We're in the midst of desperate times.
Does that mean that we shouldn't relax the restrictions because of the pandemic?
Yeah, I'm going somewhere. That was point number one.
Right.
Now, point number two, we're in the midst of a pandemic. This is not just Nigeria. This is all over the world. This same pandemic is in Italy, well, the capital in quotes of Christianity, right, of the world. It's also in Saudi Arabia, which is sort of like the capital. It's where people go to for their Muslim pilgrimage, Mecca in Saudi Arabia, of the world. So everybody, everywhere, regardless of your religious beliefs and your tribes and what you believe in and everything, is affected by this pandemic. If not taken carefully or even not handled properly, this pandemic could almost forever shut down religious activities in the world.
Now, here's
if you don't handle this properly. So certain measures had to I'm coming, I'm going somewhere. I know, right? Certain measures had to take place. Certain processes, certain restrictions had to happen to prevent the spread and also to contain the virus. Now, lifting
these
restrictions, first of all, as the governor of a state, you swore to protect the lives and property of people in that state. The lives and property of people in that state, meaning you should focus a lot on their healthcare, especially for viruses or diseases like this, which can be contracted from one person to the other easily, especially in gatherings where we have tight people. Now, I don't know how to explain this, but I am surprised that most governments, I'm not tackling just the River State government, or I am surprised that most governments have decided to, relax and allow people go to church, allow people go to their mosques. I understand the fact that this is Good Friday, we have to do certain things. But even in Italy, these things didn't happen as a result of the virus. Italy is one of the most worst hit places in the world, by the way. But these things didn't happen as a result of the virus. Certain activities that should take place in Mecca haven't taken place because of this same virus. This is a country that has not fully, contained the virus. That we do know that we don't want this to spread so much in Nigeria because we do not have the capacity, we do not have the facilities, we do not have the required healthcare to take care of more people contracting this virus. This is a country where we need as many people as much as possible that can stay at home to stay at home to combat this same virus. So why are we lifting?
For me, first of all, it is a sad reality that the Easter period, meets us in this particular dilemma. There is the pandemic, and then we have the Easter, the celebration of the death and resurrection of Christ and all of that. And the Jumat as well. Let's not forget for the Muslims, So I feel like it is sad to see that one of the important days, in our religious circle would meet us in this particular pandemic. Now, moving away from that, having state governments say that, certain state governments, say that they want to relax the restrictions to enable faithfuls, serve in, whatever religious gathering they want at all to celebrate the period and all of that. I feel that even though this might be a good move, like a kind move, from the government to the people, seeing how we take religion seriously in this part of the world, I do feel that there is a cause to be worried, a cause for concern. I feel it's worrisome for me. You remember when the governor allowed market activities to happen on Monday and on Tuesday? I saw videos and pictures of the people who trooped out to the markets, forgetting the social distancing rule, forgetting the hygiene and every other thing that we've been preaching for a long time. And it seems like they just forgot that was still in existence, and they just went out en masse and then clustered themselves, tried to buy and sell and what have you in the marketplace. And then you tell yourself, is this the same people that you want to relax a restriction for? I mean, they're yet to understand how serious this is. Now, you go to church, you go to the mosque, and one infected person who had neglected testing, sneezes or coughs. Or one thing happens, another thing happens.
Or you touches somebody who touches another person.
Every person who had been present in that particular congregation is at risk of the virus. Yes, and would have
to go for isolation, and possibly could test positive for the virus. And do we even have the funds to take care of that many people?
To be very honest, very, very honest, I do feel that good move. Yes, we applaud you. But I do think that our religious leaders should take it upon themselves, to say that even though these restrictions have been relaxed, we're going to only entertain a number of persons.
20 people.
Say just 20 come to the church. If you can't come, if you're not part of the first 20, please stay at home, watch online, pray with your family, and Easter continues.
I do feel like, number one, it was the government, right, who restricted and relaxed all of this, the restrictions that we had. Now, it is also in the government's power, or it should be the government's responsibility to ensure that churches do not entertain more than the required number of people. It is also
the thing is, it will be difficult.
It's everybody's responsibility.
It will be difficult for the government to go to churches and say, "See, let's make sure that people are not beyond this number and all of that."
The restrictions?
Because a lot of people think that this is a very important period, and they all want to congregate in church and fellowship with their brethren, or with their fellow Muslims or whatever, right? So I don't think that would be very, very fair to certain Christians or Muslims. But I think that the religious leaders can actually turn this table for their own good. They can actually simply state that, you know what, we're going to send a text, or we're going to let you know certain people, 20 people just come to church, the rest of you stream online. We'll make sure that all the online platforms are open so that you can watch, stream with your family, pray at home, and then somehow that's still contained.
Let me read you this piece on Easter celebrated in Italy by the BBC. It says, it's Easter celebrated via a screen. Now, for Italians, it will be the first time in their life that they will not see huge crowds at the Vatican for normally what is the busiest times of the year. This year, for Pope Francis will be celebrating his Holy Week and Easter services with a television and internet audience. And other traditional Italians will not be able to maintain this year is going in large group of friends and families to have their picnics like they normally would on Easter Monday and everything. So that is Italy. That is where we have the Pope. That is where we have the Vatican. That is where basically almost the center of Christianity for the world generally. People want to point to the Pope and say, oh, he's the number one Christian and stuff like that. This year, we are not going to have crowds of people at the Vatican. They have to take certain measures to avoid the spread of this same virus. Because at the end of the day, only the living serve the Lord. Only the living can go to Jamaat for prayers. Only people who are not at isolation centers taking treatment for coronavirus will be able to serve the Lord. Only then will be able to celebrate Easter properly. So at the end of the day, you have to ensure that these people are kept at the utmost position. You have to ensure that if at all the government wants to relieve the restrictions and relax everything, what they should do is ensure that there are people in place that would make sure. What they should do is to monitor it properly.
How are you going to monitor it? Do you know how many people are in this state? How many persons want to go to church? How many persons want to go to the mosque?
That is why in the first place you don't just relax the restrictions in such a manner. You talked about the market women yesterday. We saw the pictures on social media. We saw the videos. We still have people in this state that will still come and tell you that forget it. Coronavirus, no day. They catch it. So people have a problem. We have a problem of ignorance in some sectors. We have a problem of stubbornness in other sectors. So imagine the same people going to church, seeing other people, touching people, avoiding social distancing rules, and doing certain things that should not be done.
Okay, 26 minutes past 2 o'clock, and we are going to open the phone lines now because I've noticed that a lot of persons are calling in. They won't even wait for us to finish. Okay. But the topic of discuss today, right now, is the relaxation or the relaxing of these restrictions by government of various states. Is it a cause to worry over, or you think that this is a good move from the government to the people? 0817-00000951 or 08109510 Send in your text messages and WhatsApp messages.
To the number 0701-933-9962. Text message and WhatsApp messages.
95.1 FM, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon to you. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name is George. So George, calling from the work community.
All right, go on, George.
Yeah, the realization and other things. Let me just focus on our state. The governor made it.
Okay.
For me, in my personal opinion, it's leading, it's guided in the sense that he has violated the social distancing rules and regulations. That is one aspect of it. And if coronavirus is within River State here, and they ask the religious people to go to their distance due to this stuff and other things, how are they tackling it? Are they misleading the safety? That is just a question I'm asking. the governor misleading the citizen in one way or the other. Once by tomorrow or today, if there is any, if the give us
NCDC.
the report that, yes, NCDC give us the report that coronavirus is now in fever state. So who is going to answer that? I think the governor is going to answer that. He's going to tell us. That is why the governor advised that people advising in all ratifications, in all ministries, I think they should guide you. They should guide you, Governor Rivers, because he is not only working alone. They are working as a union. Understand? Whatever decision they are taking, because you can see that the Muslim community came on air today that the people should not go too much because it is not go to the community that is involved for him to ask them what we need. It's not for you to just come on air. Trust us on what to do. Understand? There's some technical questions people will ask you that, so what if coronavirus comes today, this evening, or come tomorrow? Who are we going to put responsible? For me personally, I am going to hold the governor of the state.
So bottom line is, you feel that relaxing the restriction is not so much of a good idea?
Yes, there's no way come by this.
All right.
We have this pandemic here.
All right.
Just on them more.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you very much, George. 95.1 FM. Good afternoon.
Yes, my sister. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where you're calling from?
Yes, so Forum from H.
All right, Forum. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, my brother. This issue of relaxing of church
restrictions.
Yeah. I think it calls for serious concern. Seriously, it calls for serious concern. If we can all reason together, what was the essence of locking down the churches before now? And what was the essence of locking down the markets before now?
But don't you think that the government is doing this because a lot of people would also cry that they want to be, in fellowship with their brethren, for the period?
A fellowship, can they fellowship in their various homes, particularly because we are in a critical time now. See, there is nothing wrong in the members who Christians or Muslims praying from their home. There is nothing wrong. Will you pray? Will you consider or will you see it necessary to pray in church today? Then tomorrow you get another feedback of, you have contracted coronavirus. See, when the governor came up with the issue of locking down markets, it was quite an ideal one. Then he came up again with the issue of, you can buy from 6 to 7 to 12. Then they close for 2 days. I expected the governor to have come up with a policy of that social distancing being maintained to its logical conclusion. But to my greatest surprise, the markets were like a normal something before. And we are still looking for a way to still curtail this very virus. Now you have come up with a press release that churches from beginning from today to Sunday should commence their operation in full force. Even when I expected him to have said, 70 persons, Redeemed Christian Church of God, if you don't have not 70 in a center, and maintain social distancing. Those things we are lacking. And I don't know how we tend to fight this very virus. Very honest.
Thank you very much. Let's listen to some other person, all right? Thank you. 95.1 FM.
Well, Tambolu.
Good afternoon.
Yes, my name is Sahusi Chima. I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
All right, go on, Chima.
For me, I think that the governor is in order. If markets will open, there's nothing wrong with the church to open. The governor is in order. And also, there's something he said. I said they need to pray. Now, there's a need to actually pray and seek the face of God for a time like this. You understand? There's something the word of God says in 2 Chronicles 7:14. It says, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face, he said, then will I hear from heaven, I will heal their land and I will forgive their sins. So the governor knew that there is more to pray, there's more to go spiritual. That's why he had to let the church to go on. I think there's nothing with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. There's nothing wrong with it coming from Chima, 95.1 FM.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where you're calling from?
This is Emmanuel. I'm calling from Woju.
All right, just turn down the volume of your radio just a bit, okay?
I'll be pleased.
Okay, go on then.
All right, go on.
Please, I wanted to comment on your previous discussion, but the exact time is past now.
Oh no,
yeah.
you,
now
you,
we're
you
talking
can't
about
comment on the previous discussion.
the relaxation of the restrictions for people for Christians to celebrate Easter.
Yes, I got the point.
Okay.
What the governor did, I don't know how many states that lifted the ban, but it's in order.
About 4 or 5 states.
It's in order. Yes. Why do you think it's in order?
Why do you feel it's in order?
Why it's in order is that I've been saying this thing. All these things we are doing is that coronavirus is not here. See, we are one of the poorest.
Coronavirus is not here.
Coronavirus isn't here.
What I'm saying is that not that it's not here.
Not that it's not here.
The cases has not been rampant. Like I'm not saying it's not here.
Does that mean we shouldn't follow the rules till the cases get rampant? I mean, we have guidelines to follow.
Even the government, there are people that are saying that there should not be church. We have been going other places. People have been entering cars. People have been doing other activities. People have been buying things, buying food stuff.
So you don't think it's worrisome? You think it's okay, right?
I'm telling you that it's okay.
All right.
Because all these things they are doing, the government are not. They know that they're not serious with fighting these things. We cannot fight coronavirus.
But if you're saying that it's okay, how can you blame the government that they are not serious to fight it? I mean, they're doing this for you, and you're saying it's okay.
No, what I'm saying is that the proactive measure, like River State government took, it was just to create awareness. I think it's creating of awareness, telling people that things are not normal. But I'm telling you that unless people that have a lot of maybe people that are comfortable enough, but where I'm saying, I know the way people survive. So I'm telling me that we should leave church, we should leave everyone that we are staying at home to fight coronavirus. That means we are not rich ourselves now, because coronavirus is there. Even though without going to church, we have other places we can get it from.
All right, thank you very much. All right,
thank you.
All right, let's listen to the next person. 95.1 FM.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's the name and where you're calling from?
Yes, I'm calling from Port Harcourt. My name is Okudili.
Okay. Go on.
Yes, yeah. You see, when we are saying about this social distancing, have you been on the road to see how people work? Even we ourselves, are we observing the social distance of 1.5?
I am. I don't know if you are. That's why we're talking about it.
You know yourself. Do you maintain it from your office to your house to the
Did you hear me just now? I said I am. I don't know about you.
Let me tell you one thing. If corona, now this coronavirus now, the people they have taken and said they are trying to observe them, they are getting well. You see, if this thing is the way we are looking at it, the point is that it's not killing anybody. How many children have this been affected? How many children has this been affected? It's still the elderly people that are having it. So let us just think again and think again.
When you say how many children has it affected, did you not hear the news that a newborn child actually got coronavirus?
And then again, we asked that the government be proactive.
You see. Hold on. You see. What you should be calling me to tell me is: do you think that the government should relax the restriction? I'm not asking you to come and tell me if corona is real or not.
Okay, no, see, what government is doing, let me tell you one thing now. You see, when you see US everywhere, they lock down. They have palliative, they know, and when they issue this palliative, it gets to the people. It gets to their doorstep. But here, just give one bag of rice to one man and say, go and share to even within the...
But you've not answered my question. Should they relax the restrictions for churches to have their fellowship for the Easter period?
So, come again, I didn't get you right.
Do you feel like the government's decision or the governor's decision to relax the restrictions so that Christians can go celebrate the Easter celebrations in church? Do you feel it's in order or it's a source of concern?
It's in order.
All right, thank you very much. Let's listen to someone else.
I don't even discuss myself. I don't even know whether it exists. It does not exist.
But I feel it's too bad.
You can't say it doesn't exist.
I feel it's too bad. The truth is, whether or not you believe it, okay, because now it's left for you. We've done enough sensitization. Whether or not you believe, at least be, wise enough to at least maintain the social distancing and all the precautionary measures that they put on ground for you. 95.1 FM.
Hello, anybody home? 95.1 FM.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, Harry, I'm calling you from Rupoko.
Okay, Harry, you're welcome.
Okay, concerning this, the governor's
relaxation
or relaxation,
Mm-hmm.
I think in the first place, the governor didn't ban churches. There was no authorized ban for churches to close down. They only restrict that it shouldn't be more than 50%.
That's what we're saying. Do you think that relaxing the restriction now is a good idea or it's a cause for worry?
Yeah, I think for me, concerning the way the governor has been going concerning fighting this coronavirus here in the state, I think it's not a good one.
Okay.
Because going outrightly, I think for us as an individual, I think we are the problem now. Yeah, the governor can go ahead and say, okay, let's relax the ban on churches. Everybody can go to church and pray for we can pray to God. Anywhere you are, you can pray to God.
Mm-hmm.
Take, for instance, for me, my church that I go, the governor gave this speech yesterday. This morning, my church released a statement that, yes, what the governor did is okay, but we are still going to hold our church online.
Beautiful. Okay.
We are still maintaining that social distancing. Because I don't think it's proper. Right now, the disease or the virus here in Nigeria is still going high.
Mm-hmm.
So for us now to say, okay, because of Easter, let's go to church in multitude, in crowds. Okay, if the pastor say he wants to, the governor say he wants to, relax the restriction, then he should relax both the joints and the club. Let everybody go and enjoy themselves for Easter.
Easter is religious now. Will you go to the club to celebrate Easter?
But we are still doing our religious activities in our houses.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay.
There is a problem on ground that we need to tackle.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You know, it was quite interesting that he said his church decided not to, have their own services, but do that online. It shows that some of our religious leaders also understand the need to social distance. I mean, right now in the studio, we're watching something on the TV here, and it shows churches in Italy having their services online, and then with pictures of people on the seats. That's how funny it is. People, I feel like as Nigerians, we really should be wary of this disease and all of the guidelines that come with it.
All right. We'll be taking some text messages. And for those people, I noticed that there was a message for a recall of the numbers. Okay, 0817-00000951 or 0810-9510-951. Sending your text messages or WhatsApp messages to the number 0701-9339-96.
All right, so I'll be reading some of your text messages now. This one says, for me, Governor Wike's speech is unguided and misleading because he has violated social distancing rules and regulations by allowing church activities across the states. Wike should also understand the hazard implication by his act. If by today or tomorrow another case of coronavirus reports from NCDC, Governor Wike should be held responsible. People, please take note. That message is from George O. George. This one says, there is this thing about black worshippers. They are obsessed with this belief that God is in the church or at the altar instead of knowing that God lives inside of us individually. That message was from Majesty, who is in Port Harcourt. This one says, I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to fellowship with my brethren. This is what we do when we have faith.
Faith.
All right, faith.
Okay.
But remember the Bible says we should obey and trust and obey.
See, the thing is, nobody's undermining anybody's faith as a Christian or as a Muslim. What we're trying to say is that while we're having faith, let us just observe the precautionary measures. All right, prevention is better than cure.
It's better than
honestly,
cure.
You're not testing God. You're just doing. Even God will tell you that. See, okay, since this is important, stay at home. Fellowship with your family. I mean, if you fellowship with your family, it doesn't reduce your faith. If you pray at home, it doesn't reduce your faith. God doesn't say, "Oh no, I won't answer you because you're praying at home. You should have gone to church." That's not how it works, right? Let's quickly go back to the phone lines. 95.1 FM.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where you're calling from?
Good afternoon.
Obina, go on, please.
Let me use federal government because they started their own because after they have lockdown, when the president come very late hour,
to announce, to make his speech, because they have been calling him. What will you say? Come out, where are you? Come out and say something. He come after they have banned some people for coming out. Some people business was because of the total lockdown in federal capital Abuja and Lagos and one other southwest states. See, I don't like the situation of things in Nigeria, how federal government is handling it. Do you know that British Prime Minister have this sickness? And every day CNN will bring it out. Everybody CNN will bring it up. But Abu Carry have it. Nobody is saying anything.
But are we still talking about the relaxation of restrictions? If that's not what we're talking about, then I'd have to
relaxation right now. Okay,
so don't listen to me. See, brother, you have tried a lot. I like the way people are handling the matter, but federal government have failed woefully to address this issue openly, telling us to stay at home without bringing things, sharing some money to some.
Did you not hear that palliatives have been distributed to a lot of
people
people
here in River State?
And then even the River State government, the committee that he said has started distribution. Did you not hear that?
You know the funny thing, both the federal and state, they are bed of the same federal.
All right, thank you very much.
I think what Obina is trying to say is the government isn't really giving people more information about the coronavirus. You're just telling us it's real, but you know the way we have it in the US.
We're getting information. We're getting the numbers of how many people have been infected.
We even have the daily presidential task force, speeches and everything. But I think what you're trying to say is we need more from our leaders, yeah? Probably that's what you're trying to say. Well, back to the text messages now. This one says, I believe the coronavirus is real, but looking at the way the federal and state government are handling it, I don't blame those who think it's not real. The federal government forced people whose status have not been verified to River State using caveating. The state government allowed markets for 5 hours, etc. So if people do not believe the virus exists, if our leaders do not believe the virus exists, who am I to fault them?
Isn't that wrong?
Joshua.
Hold on, Joshua, I need to correct something. The fact that the government opened markets for a while was because of the outcry of the people. A lot of persons did not have commodities, foodstuff in their houses. You aren't going to leave them hungry, will you?
Okay.
The idea of opening the markets was that people can go in, gather a few things while there is still the lockdown and restrictions and all.
Exactly the point. Joshua here is trying to say there were no lockdown, there was no restriction. People just went to markets and they were clustered together. What he's trying to say is the federal government and probably some state governments are acting as if this virus is passive and it doesn't exist.
Okay, 95.1 FM.
Hello, Wells.
Good afternoon, Lawson.
Yes, greetings. Some things don't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. The reason for the restriction is to wait for 14 days because the disease will show 14 days in your body if you've contracted the disease. It's to wait for that 14 days. Everybody is waiting. So that when it shows, you can now go to the center for treatment. And then suddenly now you now say you are relaxing, that people should go and worship.
That means you have to wait for another 14 days.
That's what I'm saying. So you will now lock people down again for another 14 days. See, let me tell you, there is no magic, there is no drug, there is nothing. The only way to fight this virus is restriction and maintain the social distance. That's the only way. Even the China people are calling. They don't have anything. Their success is the same isolation. And then you now go and tell people to gather in a church. See, let me tell you, there's something about God. God don't like it because He has created you and He has given you wisdom. He has given you, and He expects you to use it. It's just like a man who has headache, real headache, and then he say, hey, I have headache, but let me pray. And you are seeing a Panadol you have to take. You don't want to take it. And then you purposely, know that this thing is there. And then on your own, you want to go and you want to see how say God will save me. God don't save people like that. He expects you to use your wisdom. So for the governor who has been locking everywhere down, locking everybody down, and then suddenly you now say because it's Easter, and then people should go to churches and worship. Is it there? I don't know. And then after the Easter, is it that we'll still remain in lockdown? Some things don't make sense. He has made a complete nonsense of all that he has been doing since. Complete nonsense.
All right, thank you very much, Lawson.
For me, you understand? For me, open that as for people to go on. He is the one. The other day is busy shouting, capiting people are bringing enemies of the state and bringing people to people in the state. He is the one that is not trying by his policies and decisions to spread the virus. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You see, the thing is, it's beautiful everything everybody has been positing. But then you also have to realize that the government is doing this maybe because of the outcry of a lot of people.
Probably some people are saying they want to go to church.
Whether you like it or not, a lot of people would want to go to church. Good Friday, Easter Sunday.
But it is the responsibility of the government to say, look, you cannot go to church in these conditions. We have a pandemic on our hands. Trust me, we cannot afford to let this thing blow out.
Okay.
We cannot afford it.
95.1 FM.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, it's Akanimo calling from Port
Harcourt. Good afternoon, Akanimo. You're welcome.
Yes. If government say go back for worship Sundays because of Easter, let me say something. It is like government using indirect way that the virus, everything concerning virus is over. Because this is what they did for market. The market should go back for 2 days. Now market is every day now. So idea of church should start on Sunday. That means church has resumed. There's no more going back. It's indirect way of saying the virus is no more in Nigeria. And don't forget, there's some people that will argue that there's no virus in Nigeria. These people can stand on this and tell you categorically that is why they say there's no virus in Nigeria, because what is going on, it looks like child play. So they have points by saying there's no virus in Nigeria.
Okay.
Because if you say we should go back for worship, why are we going back for worship and then go back? What are we doing? Indirect way that the virus is out of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Akanimo. Let's go back
messages.
to the text
This one says, maybe the governor believes the virus doesn't exist in River State, and that was why he came up with that decision. Remember, he's not alone here. This one says Nigerians are religious, but they don't know God. Most people gather in large numbers to worship God now. We are hypocrites. Same Christians selling gari from 6,000 to 15,000, and custard robbers are the same people that are talking of Easter. Are the Christians demonstrating Christ by selling goods at high prices? Such a shame, from Mr. Olulu in Hauda West. This one says,
if you really think about that message, there's a lot of sense in that.
There's a lot of sense in that. It says, this one says, greetings, Bolo and my lady wealth. Your lady, Honorable Marlon. Okay, it goes on to say, I think with temporary relaxing of the restrictions for the sake of Easter, it's a pleasing move. But my question is, what are the measures put in place either by the government or religious houses in these trying times of the pandemic?
And if you remember, I was saying, even if the government have restricted this, relaxed these restrictions, our religious leaders should also, make certain plans for the people.
Okay.
Say 20 people, 50 people come.
Maybe like 5
social
services,
distancing.
right? Social distancing.
Others who cannot make it for the maybe 5 services
stay
should
online.
stay home and watch online. Simple.
Okay, it goes right to say, I will still plead with the religious houses to have their social distancing while they gather to mark the deaths of our beloved Christ. Thanks, Honorable Marlon. This one says, good afternoon, presenters. For me, as a Christian, I am not thankful to the government of the day. Easter service is an obligation. God said, do it in remembrance. I am not thankful to the government of the day. Easter service is an obligation. God said, do it in remembrance of me. So it is a must. You have like mixed messages there. This one says the relaxation is faulty. The governor accused Coverton pilots of bringing in people from outside whose whereabouts are not known. Upon this, the same governor turned to free everywhere so that Coverton passengers should attend mosques and churches. This is ill-motivated. Michael from Port Harcourt. This one says, good afternoon, Bolo and Wealth. I feel it is decisions like this, relaxing of the initially imposed restrictions, that make people feel COVID-19 is a hoax down here. You ban gatherings greater than a particular number of people to curb the spread of the virus, talk about social distancing and whatnot, and then make a paradoxical move which counters the initial essence. It is said that drastic times call for drastic measures. Sadly, with this move for such a time, it is seeming as though the government or the governor doesn't really consider the situation a drastic one. That one was from Fortune in Artillery. This one says, governors relapsing restrictions on religious activities make mockery of all efforts put so far to fight COVID-19. Let him also relapse on the market too. So many messages to take. This one says, I cannot wait. Okay, it says, I cannot wait to sing and dance on Sunday in my church. I trust my band boys. Oh, wow. Meaning you're definitely going to church, right? Okay. This one says, I don't think the lockdown is necessary. If you look at the Prime Minister, was he not washing his hand or maintaining social distance? Prince Philip has it with all the measures he has been observing, rather. So whereas I think the virus is real, but all the restrictions aren't necessary, we should think seriously about how to deal with this. I mean, we're dealing with this with the restrictions, I think. This one says, good afternoon, I am Ernest from Woji. I hope the governor will tell us the church that would attend so that we can join him and hold hands together and do Kumaya together.
No, isn't that very sarcastic?
Let's take some calls.
95.1 FM.
Yeah, my sister and brother.
Good afternoon to you. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is JAJ from the beautiful Jerusalem city of Port Harcourt.
You're welcome,
You're welcome.
JJ.
Since your own Jerusalem is in Port Harcourt, you don't need to go to church now, Abi.
No. My Jerusalem is even the bigger Jerusalem is even in my village because I don't really care much about Christians and Muslims.
Okay.
I care about the traditional worshippers.
All right, good for you. So tell us, do you think that the government relaxing restriction is good or not?
I think we have thrown our caution to the wind right now, and it's like anything that wants to happen, let it happen. And it's like it's telling us too that what we've been doing since is like deceiving the people that there's nothing on ground. So don't be afraid. If not, you open the market Tuesday and Wednesday, right?
Okay,
and
yes,
I can send you and I can send you a video of what I did on Room Okoro.
We saw pictures and videos. We saw them.
See, my brother and sister, it's like what Chris Brown called body to body. Body to body. It's just something else.
I second that.
Suddenly, if 14 days has not reached, God forbid that somebody picked up from another person on that market day. It's not yet 14 days for manifestation. You are now opening the church again for another transfer. And somebody talked about making people happy. Government policy is not about making people happy. It's about doing the right things. Like I was saying right now, I like to drink beer now. But the whole place is locked up. So why not make me happy? There are people that want to go watch football right now. They can't watch.
All right.
Conclusively, bro. Wait, just conclusively.
Okay.
I am a wrestling fan. I watch WrestleMania, the biggest event in the history of
and it was
wrestling.
done behind.
My brother,
audience.
I almost wept.
Without
Pope is
audience.
in somewhere right now to broadcast to the people. Nobody is going to the Vatican. And we are here telling me, Christian, I'll go to church and dance. God bless all of you that will go to church and dance. But I pray for you people that the negative part don't become part of you. Thank you very much.
Amen to that. Thank you very much, JJ. Text messages again.
Okay, this one says Happy Easter celebrations. Okay, thank you. Happy Easter to you too. This one is saying, as for me, it is a good idea from Governor Wike. The Church of God must march on. The gates of hell can never prevail.
Who is stopping the Church of God
Sonny
from marching
Michael.
on? All right.
This one says, please, oh, Christians, let it be known to you that Jesus said that thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Stay alive by maintaining social distancing for your own good. Majesty from Port Harcourt. Okay, this one says, he said do not tempt the Lord your God. Okay, this one says 2 cups of rice and 1 big size Indomie is what River State are giving the people. And
That's
they are
for the
making,
first half.
okay, that was for the first half. We cannot, this one says, God. Good afternoon, Wealth and Bolu. A government that is so quick to make a point without first thinking about the effects of its action will continue to make mistakes at every step of the way. The governor's actions to relax gathering on religious activities is a way to make the people forgive him on the hardship he has brought upon them. There is massive unemployment in the state and the governor is responsible for it. Mr. Governor Nyesom Wike, relaxing a ban on religious gathering will not save when the day of reckoning comes. Umaim Thomas from Port Harcourt. This one says, for me, it's a good idea because Mr. Governor needs his own part of the money. That's why churches are open. Oh, the message is from James. This one says, people have been going out, jumping into one cab or the other. Do we know who is who in these cabs? There has been no social distancing. Let us not deceive ourselves. And I think that's where lots of people have problems because even without the church and everything, people haven't really been observing social distancing in the state.
Hold on. If you remember, I want to ask the question, whose fault is this? That the driver tells the passengers that, oh no, you're more than, I mean, he was telling me that he was telling the passengers that, you know what, he's going to just carry 2 persons at the back and 1 person in front. And the passengers were like,
laughing at him.
You don't want to make money. So imagine,
that is bad.
I feel like it's everybody, but that doesn't mean that we should just flout the others.
I know. Okay, back to the text messages. This one says, folks, I just hope the governor is not unwittingly opening multiple doors for the virus to play around. The Vatican City will remain shut down all through Easter celebration. Is Rivers State more pious than the Vatican City? Except the government is telling us that the virus could be pacified today and on Sunday, Friday, all the trouble. I saw something on social media that said, is the virus going on break? Why are we going on break if the virus isn't going on break,
All right, back to the phone lines because of time. One last call and then a text message. 95.1 FM.
Good afternoon to both of you. I bring you greetings from Rumu Bayelsa.
Good afternoon to you. We bring you greetings from Port Harcourt.
Center, Honorable Bibi.
You're welcome, Honorable Bibi.
Whether Easter or not, or coronavirus or not, you guys have to chop knuckle.
Chop your knuckle right back.
Very important. Relapsing of the Peter or whatever.
Okay.
I think we are not seeing this thing as a problem at all. Even those who are privileged to be watching CNN. And it's like, you're supposed to know what is really happening over there. Now you ask yourself one question. You are telling people, don't forget that not too long ago, some persons were arrested and were taken to court.
Quickly, because we're almost out of time.
So I don't know why you are relaxing this. Wait, these so-called church people, has the elderly pastor come out, use this coronavirus and say, all my church members, wherever you are, in your house, let us have 1 hour to pray together in your house. Is it only in church we do pray? Well, I know they outside.
All right. Okay. Let's quickly take
Thank you very much.
as many text messages we can take before we run out of time.
We're already out of time.
This one says, see, Bolo and Wilt, I'm beginning to suspect two of you that you don't like to pick my calls. Chris, we would pick your calls. As a matter of fact, we don't have an idea of whoever it is that's calling. Please, one last one, Wealth. This one says, Governor Wike is in order. He has done enough information to all on surgery. We are not ordinary animals. We have two orders. Not some people shouting Wike this, Wike that. That was from Sonny in Oyigbo, and that's the most we could take for today on the show. It was an amazing time with Will.
Thank you to everybody who called in, sent in your text messages. We're sorry we couldn't read all of those, both on WhatsApp and the usual SMS and the calls. Thank you to everybody who calls and the people we couldn't take their calls. Chris, terribly
don't worry.
sorry.
Next time we'll take your call.
All right, the news update comes up next. Thank you. I am Wells Wilson.
My name is Ajay Bolatife. Happy Easter to everybody.
Every day, every hour, when the big stories break, depend on our 24-hour news team to bring you the latest. Today, 95.1 FM.
Today, 95.1 FM. Port Harcourt. News update.
Good afternoon, and here is the news update at 3 on Today 95.1 FM. I am Wealth Wilson. The Rivers State National Assembly caucus has backed Governor Nyesom Wike on the action taken against Coverton helicopters in Port Harcourt. The caucus, in a statement signed by Senator George Sekbo and Kingsley Chinda, said the step taken by Governor Wike was to protect the lives of Rivers people. The lawmaker made the observation while reacting to comments by Minister of Aviation Heidi Sarika, about the arrest of two Coverton helicopters pilots in Port Harcourt by the River State government. The statement said it is assumed that the Minister of Aviation does not understand the times or the true meaning of a federation, or may have an ulterior motive to expose the citizens of River State to danger and death from the COVID-19 pandemic. It said it expected that the federal government would have been more interested in protecting the lives and have better communication in pursuing whatever interest instead of the position taken by the minister. The lawmakers called to the aid of the President Muhammadu Buhari to desist from reckless actions that are likely to paint the president in bad light. The All Progressives Congress have advised River State Governor Nyesom Wike not to take action in the fight against COVID-19 that will have negative impact on residents of the state. The South-South Zonal Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, David Okumba, who made this statement, was reacting to some of the latest development in the state since the first case of the virus in the state, including the governor's allegation against the federal government and the arrest and arraignment of two pilots by the state government. Okumba described the governor's demand and position for the 10 billion naira grant to Lagos state government by the federal government ridiculous. He also encouraged Rivers people to support federal government in the fight against COVID-19 through the guidelines by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control. Reacting to the closure of markets, appointment of a PDP chairman as the chairman of Palliative Committee, the APC Zonal Secretary asked that the government be transparent in distribution of the palliatives. President Muhammadu Buhari says this is the period for Nigerians to remain faithful and hopeful in God. The president made the observation in his goodwill message to Christians in celebration of Easter. President Buhari said, although this year's Easter comes amid the COVID-19 pandemic, it is an opportunity for all to be hopeful that with intensified prayers backed by personal and collective responsibility, the nation will triumph. He also enjoined all Christians to rekindle their faith in Christ, who overcame persecutions and displayed endurance. President Buhari also commended and identified the encouraging containment and ameliorating strategies put in place by members of the Presidential Task Force to combat COVID-19. The president noted that the measures like restriction of movements and closure of business premises put in place by the federal government is a sacrifice in everybody's interest to save Nigeria from calamity. He added that the welfare of everyone is paramount and the government will continue to be topmost in plans and efforts to supply all with basic needs and amenities. On the foreign scene, images have emerged of coffins being buried in a mass grave in New York City as the death toll from the coronavirus outbreak continues to rise. Workers in hazmat outfits were seen using a ladder to descend into a huge pit where the coffins were stacked. The location in Hart Island, used for New Yorkers with no next of kin or who could not afford a funeral. New York State now has more coronavirus cases than any single country. The state's confirmed caseload of COVID-19 jumped by 10,000 to 159,907, of whom 7,000 have died. And with that, we conclude the news update at 3. Do not forget to take responsibility. Wash your hands frequently with soap under running water. Avoid touching your face and high contact surfaces to prevent coronavirus. Good afternoon. Once again, I am Wealth Wilson. Today's Sports Live comes up next.
Today's news, today's entertainment, today's sports, today's issues. Today on Today 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt.
Let's talk football. Let's talk football.
What a devastating strike!
Football is a leisure game.
Sports is actually my job.
Football is boring.
That's not true. It's way more important than that.
What a wonderful goal! Fantastic strike!
As far as I'm concerned, sports is all about passion.
Sports Attack, weekdays 7:30 a.m. and Today's Sports Live 3 p.m. Weekends 1 p.m. to 6 p.m.
For all you need to know in the world of sports, leave the dial on Today 95.1 FM.
Good day, our highly revered football enthusiasts and lovers. My name is Amaju Melvin Pinnick, President of Nigerian Football Federation. The world is passing through an unprecedented phase of challenges occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. We all love the beautiful game. It has brought huge joy, fame, and fortune. But we must pause and take a deep breath. We must know that we are all vulnerable to this pandemic. We must join the global army in eliminating this scourge from the planet Earth. We must listen to the dictates of our government. We must listen to the dictates of the World Health Organization and other reputable institutions. At every point in time, we must not be tired of cleanliness. We must not be tired of staying at home and encouraging others to stay at home. By doing so, this war would have been 90% won. Football is played outdoor in Nigeria. This is not the time to play football regrettably. We must be able to wash our hands with soap and water. We must sanitize our environment and ourselves and maintain social distancing where necessary. The watchword at this point in time is discipline, and we must be able to discipline ourselves. It's a sacrifice because the sacrifice is quite noble. The goal is priceless. On behalf of the Nigerian Football Federation, the Congress, the Executive Committee, we pray for the best. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Kanu Wankwo, aka Papilo. For the latest and trending sports stories, always listen to Today Sports Live on Today 95.1 FM Port Harcourt.
You know, there are a few areas that define a man, like sports.
I think we can live with that.
Good afternoon and welcome to Today's Sports Live, reaching you from the studios of your premium news talk and sports radio station, Today 95.1 FM. It's the weekend edition